prolific columnist for The Sun, The Sunday Times and The Spectator, the great Rod Liddle. Welcome, Rod.
Thank you, and I hope you're impressed, because just for this edition of your programme, I am dressed like a member of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. I've got a T-shirt, leather jacket. I've not got the keffiyeh on, but I thought that would.
It's a good look. I like the rifle thing in the air as well.
They always do that. I don't know. Is there no other way the people of the Middle East, Israel excluded, the Arab world, can show pleasure in anything other than firing a gun? Could they not? I don't know, maybe join hands and sing Ring a Ring of Roses or something. I know, just some way of showing pleasure other than shooting.
Yeah, well, when I lived in Los Angeles, the Mexicans used to do this a lot, the Latino community, particularly at their various festivals and New Year and stuff. And I always used to say to my wife, I was like, whatever happens to those bullets that go into the air? Anyway, one year we found out because they came down and they killed about 3 of them. They came through their heads from the sky. So sometimes they're committing suicide when they celebrate with their rifles.
Yeah, very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Indeed. Let's talk about Syria. We should take it very seriously, of course, but there was a moment of hilarious comedy in the House of Commons when David Lammy, the brilliant Foreign Secretary, was asked by Richard Tyson on Reform, were they planning to suspend asylum applications by Syrian migrants? Were they planning to stop Syrian migrants coming here due to obvious reasons? And, of course, Lammy, virtue signalling as always, turned round and said, no, I'm not aware of any such plans. The government is concentrating on the humanitarian crisis. 30 minutes later, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper suspended all Syrian asylum cases. So the right hand not knowing what the left hand's doing, classically in Labour. But to take it a bit more seriously, Yvette Cooper's heart is in the right place, but I don't see how you stop Syrians coming here. They're not likely to say they're Syrians, and I don't see how you stop their asylum seeking process. It means they're still here. It probably just means they'll be here for longer.
Yeah, it's a complex and very interesting issue, isn't it? Because if you take the BBC and most indeed of the broadcast media's coverage of what's happened in Syria seriously, you would believe that HTS were kind of a little bit like the Liberal Democrats under Tim Farron, a sort of consensual, rather charming people. They may have been a bit radical in their past, but all that's behind them. Now they're ready to embrace DEI initiatives and penal reform and in which case you could argue that every single Syrian asylum seeker in this country should be sent back immediately, because this is obviously a burgeoning democracy. And surely as Syrians, they would wish to be part of this brave new world of Arabic Mediterranean happiness. But it's not quite like that, is it? I don't think Lammy understands for a minute what's going on. The man is a plank of wood, as I've said many times before, and I don't think Yvette Cooper is much better off. My suspicion is that this will turn into 7 shades of hell within 2 weeks. Yeah. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope I'm wrong. But sadly, I was right about the Taliban. I mean, I wasn't alone in this by any means. I was right about the Taliban. I was right about Libya. I was right about Iraq. I was right about the Arab Spring. Mm-hmm. Every time the broadcast media get themselves worked up into an apoplexy of pleasure and elation about democracy flourishing in the Middle East, 2 weeks later, people's heads are being chopped off all over the place. And that's what I think is going to happen here.
Yeah, I think it's going to descend or, kind of break up into a mosaic of chaos with all those various factions and tribes. It's going to be a nightmare. Couldn't agree with you more. I think Labour's approach to it is interesting, Keir Starmer, of course, by the way, currently off on another one of his his extremely important foreign trips, this time to Saudi Arabia, where he's neglecting to mention human rights or anything like that.
Listen, Kevin, before you go on, he doesn't want to be Prime Minister. He's had enough. I'm serious. You look at his face, he looks stricken. And what have I let myself in for? I'm not up to the job. I don't blame him for going around the world talking to foreign leaders. He's probably better doing that, given that he's fairly circumspect, than he is actually deciding what happens to our country. That will be left to the extraordinary genius that is Rachel Reeves. But yes.
Well, the thing is, he came straight out of the traps. Oh, marvellous, the despot has gone. It's good that the tyranny has ended in Syria.
It's so stupid. It is such
stupid thing to say for the reasons you've just mentioned. But let's go back, right? So here's Labour saying, it's terrible tyranny, this awful monster, Assad. It was in 2013 where in one of his rare good moves, David Cameron suggested that perhaps we hooked up with America and did something about Assad chemically weapon bombing his own people. And it was the Labour Party, under the auspices of the brilliant Ed Miliband, who formed a coalition with the other parties to vote that down to make sure that Assad stayed in power. Welcome.
So forgive me, I am absolutely with Miliband on that. I am Trump when it comes to the Middle East. I'm really sorry. This is where we're going to differ. Every time we involve ourselves in the internecine problems of Arab tyrannies, we make the Arabs hate us more, which I don't really care about because they hate us already. But we also make things far worse for the people in those countries. The perfect example of that was Iraq. When we intervened and created a civil war which lasted for 15 years, is arguably still going on and is arguably behind what's happened in Syria. It may be that Saddam Hussein was a ghastly human being, I'm sure he was, and a bad leader. But he was also, compared to what followed, a paragon of virtue, virtually. Yeah. I mean, at least women were allowed to walk around in whatever clothes they wished to wear. At least women were educated. At least there were hospitals. At least the Kurds were at least a little bit looked after. What followed was just chaos and mayhem. And it was the same with Gaddafi, a lunatic, obviously, but still better. It is the case that every time the people of the Arab world have their say with these overthrowings of tyrants, they put in place someone substantially worse. And my argument about the Middle East is we keep the hell out of it, protect our own interests, and look on rather sadly as they kill each other, and retain our support for the democracy in the Middle East, which is Israel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you. It's just the hypocrisy of Labour that interests me.
Sure, no, I get that, Kev. I get that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same side of you about interfering on all this. I mean, I sort of almost praised Cameron. I apologise for that. Of course, he did excellent work in Libya. That country's in a fine state after his intervention.
Isn't it just?
Yeah,
isn't it?
It is ridiculous. But let's talk about what's going to happen here. Now, as I say, David Lammy didn't get the memo, but Labour's policy is we will, I think it's France, Greece and Germany, suspend all asylum applications from Syrians. So, put the case that tomorrow, I don't know, as per usual, about 200 come across in small boats. Do you think many of them, they won't have any documents, of course, and they'll all be sort of men between the age of about 18 and 30.
Yeah.
Do you think that when the authorities say, what country are you from, you better not be from Syria, that they'll say, well, I cannot tell a lie, I am from Syria? I mean, they're just going to stop saying they're from Syria. And in terms of people who are already here, I gather there are quite a few thousand Syrians, 10,000 or so, waiting for asylum applications. I mean, in what way does it sort of protect us or help us that we suspend them? It just means their applications take longer. Somehow or other, Rod, it seems to me, if they start letting these jihadis out of the various jails and prison camps in Syria, somehow we've got to try and stop them coming here. But knowing us, we won't do a very good job of it. So I'm not quite sure what Labour's announcement today, Yvette's tough-talking announcement, amounts to.
No, it's not quite the same as Austria, is it? Which said deport everyone immediately, every Syrian or anyone who looks like a Syrian or has a beard, just deport them immediately. That's what Austria did. And I've got to say, there's something dark and unpleasant within me which rather respects what Austria did. And of course, that is the other thing where there is a mismatch between what's actually happening and how the media report it, which is, OK, they're letting all these people out of that rather horrible jail complex. It is my contention that the people who were held in that jail complex are probably worse than the people who led the country. That they are almost certainly jihadis who want to chop your head off. They probably, even though I'm dressed like them, wish to chop my head off, which is disappointing for me. But you know, there is no grasp of reality on this issue, either with the politicians, be it Labour. I don't know what the Conservatives have said. I think people have forgotten that the Conservative Party exists. You just don't hear from it anymore. No. You hear from Reform, who are doing a good job on this, I think, and I'm someone who's been critical of Reform recently. I think that the one bright spot we have to look towards, and I never thought I'd say this, is the Trump presidency. Because he has this stuff dead right. You know, he will wave a big stick if Western interests are at risk. And, you know, I will end the Ukraine war in a day. I'm not sure he can quite do that, but at least it shows a determination to do that. And I'll have nothing to do with the Middle East. They can do what the hell they want, because we will support Israel, and that's your lot. And I think that is the way forward. I think you're absolutely right. I think jihadis will be making their way here, and they will be complaining about appalling treatment under Assad. And then there will be others who will be complaining about appalling treatment under the jihadis. That will happen next. And there will be floods and floods of people, because there will be a war in Syria, my suspicion is. You know, if it isn't, great, wonderful. But that's my suspicion. And we will do nothing about it. We will be less equipped than any of our European partners in repelling people from coming to Britain. You know, if the Syrians had any sense, they'd go to France, because it used to be a French colony. And therefore there is a connection there. But no, there'll be a Calais come Tuesday morning.
Exactly. There'll be a load of people